Hey guys, it's Maymay, and today we're going to be looking at the We Are Memory Keepers score and trim board. Basically, this is a scoring board with a trimmer attached, so it is supposed to take the place of two tools in our craft room to save you some space and some time and maybe some energy. I don't know. We'll see about that. I thought we would make a project with it that used a lot of trimming and a lot of scoring, so you wouldn't just be watching a review, you'd also get a project. So the project I'm going to make today, you can clearly make with what you've already got at home. We're just going to use this to try it. You don't have to have just this tool. Now, real quick about this tool, it is a trimmer on this side. There are magnets that hold this housing in place. There is this little flip out piece, and if you've been on any of my Facebooks where I have not known what this is, I want to say thanks to Jenny from Craft Test Dummy because I watched her review and I found out what this was, and Emily also let me know. This was sent to me by Emily St. Clair, by the way. I don't think I said that. A subscriber sent this to me and she also let me know. This is the piece that you put down when it's time to score paper. I'll show you what I mean. You put this down and it blocks your paper so it has a square. Without this in place, you don't really have a place to stop it. So this is basically just the stopper for when scoring. Couple cool features about it are, at this point, this is one thing I really like about it, and I wish other trimmer companies would nail this one down too. You hear me out there, okay? So some of you have, by the way, some trimmer companies have this right, but notice how this goes to 5.5. If you're a card maker, most of the time 5.5 is about where you're gonna be trimming, so it's nice not to have to open the scoreboard up or flip an arm out to get to that point for 5.5, so I do really appreciate that. Now, this guy can be a full-size trimmer. You just reach underneath and open it out like this, and now it becomes a 12-inch trimmer scoreboard, which is really cool because you can just line your paper up here, butt it up here all the way 12 inches and trim over here, and you have all of the scoring marks for you. This is very reminiscent of some of the other bigger scoreboards like this with the every 1/8 inch mark to score. Now, if you want to leave this open all the time, check this out. Or if you just want it to be locked into place, you have these little arms in the back that allow you to lock it, and it comes a little sturdier when you do that. To be honest, it's not the sturdiest board I've ever used. It does it is a little light, let's say that, and it is a little bendy. That's how I want to say it. Like I can press in, so it's not the sturdiest one. Now, something that I love, another thing I wish a lot of trimmer companies would jump on is this. Check out these measurements. You've got 1/8 of an inch, 1 1/8, 1 1/4, 1 3/8, 1 1/2, 1 5/8, 1 3/4, 1 7/8, and 2. And it does that between every one of the marks. I love that because so many people struggle with measuring. I know it's not just me. I hear from you guys all the time. This is awesome. I wish every trimmer out there had them clearly marked. So if you needed to do 2 7/8, it would be super easy to find that. I do love that, so kudos to that. Now I've got to turn it sideways to show you this, but down here you get centimeters. I think that's centimeters. I'm pretty sure it is. But that is pretty cool to have this option. So you have inches and centimeters in one board. So I like that too. Kudos on that one. You also have the onboard tool storage for your bone folder. Let me close this up so I can show you that. I'm going to be using it closed today for the project because I want you to be able to see it in the screen as best you can. So here it is. It has a place for the bone folder. All right, and that's pretty common with We Are Memory Keeper stuff. They always have a place for one of these, and they always give you one of these in the toolkit, or at least I've always seen it connected to the what is this? To the tool. Wow, lost it. Okay, so I'm gonna close this guy up and it just closes down into place like that. Okay, so I've got it folded in half and ready to go. Now we can get to the fun part, making the project. We're gonna make a little accordion angel today, and I wanna say thank you to Laura Dennison on Following the Paper Trail, because I saw her video and I was like, this is the perfect thing to do to try this out. Now I've changed mine a little bit from Laura's, but don't worry, we're gonna get kind of the same effect. So to make these little angels, the first thing you're going to need to do is we're going to trim some paper down, and I'm going to need a 5" by 4 1/4 piece. So I'm lining this up in the 5" mark here of the trimmer. Now, one other thing I'm not real fond of, it's kind of hard to know if I should line this up at the score mark, in the middle of the score mark? I'm not really sure. I'm going to go to the middle of the score mark. The reason I think that's kind of a big deal is I'm afraid some of my cuts won't be perfectly accurate, which my cuts typically aren't anyway, but it's really hard to measure and kind of know you're landing in the same spot every time. So I'm not a big fan of using the score mark as my guide, but we're going to do that. Now the blade is just a little metal, what I call those little triangle metal blades. Let me scoot it up. So there's a little triangle right there. And I do love this to have a caution warning here because that blade is totally exposed. So I do love that about it. Now, as with any bladed trimmer and me, I always cut from the bottom up. I find I get much more control of the paper if it's pushing against the stopper portion than if I'm pulling against it. So I move my blade to the bottom and I'm gonna push up. Now the blade cuts just like any other triangular blade like that. I really don't notice anything different. I do notice that this housing is really flimsy and that this guy gets really stiff in some places. Well, not bad, that pass. But sometimes, like right here, I'm getting a lot of drag. So I don't know if maybe it just does that over time. Emily told me that she noticed that over time it did get stiffer. So I do know that. All right, now I need to cut this down to 4 1/4. But again, look at the cool thing. I'm not having to open an arm out to get these measurements. So there is the dress, 5 inches by 4 1/4. And I'll put all the measurements below because I know it's going to be hard to follow as I'm reviewing. So now we need a piece for the halo, and I'm going to use this glitter paper. Can you see that glitter? I think it's super cute. I need to cut this piece down to 5 inches. This is from my scraps, so I thought I would use it up today. So I cut 1/2 inch off, and then I only need about 1 inch. Let's do 1 1/4 on this guy because I'm going to punch it with some punches. So we'll cut this one down to 1 1/4. All right, so that'll be for my halo. Now for wings, I'm going to use vellum, and I'm going to cut my wings at 5 inches. This is some scrap vellum from my pile. This was a 12 by 12 piece, and I love to dig into the scraps when I can. And then I'm going to cut these at 1 3/4. And you need 2 of these, okay, because you have a wing on both sides. So there's one piece, 5 by 1 3/4, and then we're going to do this piece, 5 by 1 3/4. Now, one thing I will tell you that I noticed, and matter of fact, let's do an example of it. First off, I want to show you this. Do you see this kind of stringy stuff that I'm getting when I'm doing these trims? I think that is from the trimmer itself. I don't think it's from the vellum, because I'm noticing the vellum is cut very nice and crisp, but I think I may be cutting into it. I'm not really sure where that's coming from, but I do tend to see a lot of that stringy stuff. All right, let me show you something else. I'm going to cut this down to 1 3/4 real quick just to show you this. Now, if I wanted to cut this vellum, say, in half, I want to show you something. You see this big gap in this area right here? If I take this blade and I push forward, see how it kind of squishes that vellum up? Now I'm going to hold it in place and show you. Even with my hand holding it, see how it kind of squishes? And let me show you what happens. We do not get a straight cut. I don't know if that's the blade is not super sharp. I don't know what the deal is, but in between here, it seems to struggle a little bit. So there's the trimmer part. All right, let's do some scoring. Now to score, I'm going to close this guy down because remember, this is our little stopper piece. I'm going to keep the blade open. Now that's another thing. The reason they have caution on here is because your blade is now exposed. So keep it up at the top and out of your way. All right, with the dress piece, I'm going to put this into the scoring tool here. And you see now how that's become the stopper. And we're going to score at every 1/2 inch. All right, so I'm going to start at 1/2 inch. And I'm going to score all the way across every 1/2 inch. Now, I saw these angels done by Laura Dennison of Following the Paper Trail, and I made my own tweaks to it. But I want to tell you, in case you want to do this, she has it. I'll link her video below, and her measurements are a little bit different. And she did 1/4 inch score marks, but that was too tiny for my hands, so I went to 1/2 inch. And I'm going to score every one of these at 1/2 inch. So that makes it easy. Every 1/2 inch, we are going to score all of the pieces we just trimmed. Here's something else. I can't get my fingers down there and hold all this paper and score at the same time for that little bitty bit. So I just bring this guy back and just line it up and do that last one. Let me show you that on the vellum. You'll really be able to see it. So I put the vellum in. I'm going to score at 1/2 inch. And you do have to be more gentle with vellum. You can see how it's starting to curl up on us. So every 1/2 inch. And just wherever I find that I can't hold the vellum still anymore down here, I'm just gonna flip it and line one of those marks up on one of the half inch spots, and then just finish those off. Since they're just half of an inch from each other, it makes that super easy. All right, half inch all the way down. And then about here, I'm gonna turn it, line that up on one of the inch marks, and it makes it easier for me. You can do this in any scoreboard, by the way, so that's an easier way to get your scoring done. Now I'm gonna move this out of the way for a little bit because we are ready to assemble an angel. Now to make this super cute, we're gonna use some punches along the edges of the angel. And the first punch I'm gonna use is gonna be my doily punch from Martha Stewart. I'm gonna give her little wings a bit of a frilly edge. So I zoomed you guys in because I was way far away, so I'll let you see me do this one a little closer up. So just eyeball centering that, starting with my center punch. Then I'm just gonna line it up on the edges like this. Punch. One more line up down here. Punch. Let me move some of that out of the way. It's starting to clog up underneath. And then I'm gonna move to the other side. Now for my halo piece, I decided to use a different punch. This one, let me get it where you can see it, is kind of a scallop dot. So I'm gonna use this one. This one's from EK Success. Again, eyeball centering it and then punching. And this glitter paper can sometimes be harder to punch, but this seems to be doing okay. Now this border punch is by Fiskars, and you can see it is snowflakes and embossing. I really think this one's pretty. So it will cut out the snowflakes and emboss in the other areas. So I'm just gonna eyeball center this one again. I'm just making sure the pattern is virtually the same length, but I'll tell you what's really cool. On a Fiskars punch, they have a grid on either end, so that works really nice. I'm gonna use that grid to my advantage. So now I'll punch and press because it is a punch and emboss. Then I'm going to go down here and line it up again. Now that I've got all the pieces scored, punched, ready to go, I'm going to add some adhesive to these wings. I'm using some sticky tape, and in the last half-inch score of each one, I'm going to add some adhesive. Now you could do this with hot glue, you could do this with a wet glue, but holding this in place, you'll see in a few minutes, is a little bit hard to do if you're using wet glue. I'm only gonna need to put this adhesive in these two spots because of the way we're gonna put this angel together. So that's pretty cool. So here we go, add my adhesive. Now I'm gonna do my folding. I'm gonna start with this big guy because it's easier. I'm gonna start by folding back, okay? So this is her dress front, and I'm folding back on this end, and then it's just accordion fold all the way down. Now again, you can do this with the 1/4 inch measurements, but my fingers and 1/4 inch did not like each other. So I said, I gotta change this. It also made it easier for me with my adhesive because I had more room to put it. All right, so you can see both of our dress pieces ended going back, all right? The next thing I'm gonna do is I'm gonna lay this down. I'm gonna score the top half of this, or crease it with my bone folder, just the top half, because I want her dress to flow out when she's done. So that way, that kind of helps me get that pushed in. Okay, so there's her dress. Now let's do her wings. This vellum is hard to do. You're gonna have to take your time on it because even though we scored it, it's still basically just lines in the vellum showing you where to fold it. I think if the score tool had a better point, not that it was bad, not that that one is bad, but if you have a score tool that has a deeper point or a sharper edge to it, maybe use that on your vellum in the same scoreboard, but just use that instead of your blunt bone folder, because it just didn't get in there very deep. But you can just look at the lines and do the folding and you're okay. All right, so again, we started going down with our folds, okay? So that leaves our adhesive where we want it, and those two wing sections are facing down. That's what we want. So there's one. Let me show you again. So here's my adhesive facing up. I'm gonna fold down. So start with folding down on all of these. Now, if you change your scoring to 1/4 inch, you might end up having to trim one off at the end. I'm not sure, you shouldn't have to, but you just want to make sure that when you end your folds, all of the folds on the end are facing down. You will know what I mean. Because see how these adhesives are facing down. Perfect. One more. just the halo. By the way, I did do the halo at the quarter of an inch on one of them that I did for practice. It's just too tiny for me. I can't handle it. So our halo is going to look like that instead. All right, now we're just going to put these guys together. And this is really just kind of temporary to hold them. So I'm going to take the backer off of this adhesive on just one piece to start, okay? And then I'm going to line up my dress and a wing together on their end like this, and then squish that adhesive together. So I've got a wing. It looks like an arm, but it's a wing right there. Now I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. Remove one adhesive, the one that will be closest to the dress, okay? I'm going to line it up with the edge of that dress, and then squeeze that together, squeeze that adhesive together. So now we're looking like that, okay? Now for the halo. Same thing, come to this side, release this backer, remove this adhesive backer, and then attach your halo to it, just like you've been doing. This is really a fun project. I really think you could get your kids involved in it. I think they could do it. Then here, do you see how I had to kind of maneuver that? You're going to maneuver it so you can get that halo to come back around to the wing. And you're just going to attach it just the same. So now we end up with this kind of mess that looks something like this. You have to kind of manhandle it. Now watch this. When we bring this together, this is where our angel shape starts. Let me see if I can move my hand out of the way so you can see it. See the halo in the wing, and then her dress at the bottom. Okay, so that's where it starts. But we need to get this to stick together. Let me show you how I'm doing it. Anytime I've ever made a rosette of any kind, this is how I've done it. This is a 1 1/4 inch circle and my hot glue gun. And I'm going to put a puddle of hot glue here in the middle. Okay, a pretty good puddle. Don't worry, your paper's going to curl and all that because the glue is hot. Then I'm going to sit this angel on top of that puddle, on that circle, and I'm going to squish it into shape and into that hot glue. All right, and then don't put your finger over that center spot because there's hot glue feeding up into that hole. Just hold it till it cools. Once it starts to cool and it gets kind of jelly-like, if you need to make any adjustments, that's the time to do it. Mine is starting to cool. It's getting pretty good. Now, you don't need to mess with this until it's fully cooled off, because if you let go of this, it will start to move on its own. If it's not cooled off, it'll just kind of stretch and move and get out of shape. But you can also sit something on top of it, like if you want to just sit an acrylic block on it to hold it into place, that can help while it cools. But it does cool off pretty quick. So look, this is the beginning, or the major portion of our angel. How cute, right? Okay, let me zoom out. So now it's time to give her a face and any other decoration. So here's what I'm gonna do. I want her to be like a snow angel. I think that'll be super cute. So I'm using some more scrap of glitter paper that I've got, and I'm gonna punch out a snowflake. This is a Martha Stewart snowflake punch, and I think that'll be cute up here to act kind of like her extra halo piece. Then you can see I've done this already. I'm gonna punch another glitter piece with a little circle. And you can adjust this for your angel. And by the way, you can change the size of this angel to be anything you want. So I'm going to hot glue her little snowflake sort of high, sort of to the top. And I'm gonna let it land in between those rosettes so you can really see it. Let's bring in the tweezers for this work because I don't wanna get burned. I'm gonna put the glue on the back of it. You could probably foam dot at this point, but one thing I found is using the glue here actually helps it to be sturdy on the front as well, because it'll kind of help to hold that rosette in place even more. So there's her little extra halo, and now for her little face, which if you want to draw a face or use a punch that you might have, do that. You could do this angel in colors, like if you wanted to make an angel for somebody in maybe their school colors, or if you wanted to make it for to match someone's tree, or just anything. You could go crazy with these little guys. I think they're so cute. Now for this part of my little angel, I'm just gonna put a little bow, and I'm gonna use hot glue again. Again, the hot glue in the middle just helps hold your rosette together. So I've actually done a little double loop bow. You can do that any old way you know how to do that, or you can use a little bow tool, or even get pre-made bows. That'll be, easy enough. So I've just put a little bow here, and I think I'm gonna trim these down just a little bit. Now I'm also gonna make a little loop to glue to the back of her so she can be an ornament. So I'm just making a loop with some ribbon, the same ribbon that I did the bow in. And I'm just going to tie a little knot. I'm going to take my tweezers and pull that through. It's my new favorite trick. Instead of fiddling with these tiny little things, just use your tweezers to your advantage. I'm going to trim this extra off, which I'm not going to need. And then flip her over and glue this little loop down. A little more hot glue. You actually could glue this on between this little spot and her halo, like when you push the rosette in. But in my opinion, I'm so focused on getting that rosette in place that I can do this after the fact, and I'm fine with it. And there you go, a super simple and beautiful little angel ornament. Wouldn't this be pretty on a tree or on a gift? I think this would be beautiful on a package, just to kind of zhuzh it up. Maybe even treat it like a tag. Maybe on the back you could add to and from with a little piece of cardstock. I love how this turned out. I hope you guys try them, and I hope you share them with me over on my Facebook group, which is called Maymay Made It, and so did I. Actually, I just recently did a tutorial over there on the Facebook group with tiny bows, so you might want to go check that out. So now my final thoughts on the paper trimmer. I really am thankful that Emily sent it to me to review, because I was going to purchase one of these for myself, but after playing with this guy, I don't think I'll be buying it. I'm not extremely thrilled with the weakness of it. I think that's the way to put it. Let me show you from the side. Gosh, you just can't see it happening unless I'm laying it down and pressing on it. You just can't see it happen. Maybe you can see it here, but it's not extremely sturdy, which is not at all like we are memory keepers. Usually their tools are very sturdy and kind of workhorses in my craft room, but I think I would pass on this one. Even though it takes up 2-for-1 tools, I still think I'm happier with my separate trimmer and my scoreboard. Now, if you can only afford one tool and this gets you two, there is no shame in your game of buying this guy. It will get you by. For me, I'm a heavy-handed crafter, and I feel like I would wear this out real quick. I'm afraid that the more I bowed this tool, the less connection between the paper and the blade I would get, because I would be bowing this down. So just my opinion, and I like to share my opinion with you guys. If I were in the market for a trimmer scoreboard, I would pass on this one. This wouldn't be the one for me. But thanks, Emily, for sending it to me to try it out. Again, this is my opinion. You guys may find this the best tool in your craft room. And if you do, tell us below. Let us know how much you love it, because you may have an opinion that will help someone else. Thanks so much for watching. Talk to you real soon. Bye-bye.